I want to talk about mistakes today. One of the scariest things that an interpreter can do is listen to themselves, record themselves, listen to it, compare what was said to what was interpreted. There's about to be a cat in this video, I think. This is scary. It is important and it is scary because we cannot improve without facing our mistakes, but when we see our mistakes, then we understand that we're not perfect. And it's a terrible thing for our egos, and it's a terrible thing for our self-confidence. And so a lot of people prefer to just never listen to their mistakes. They don't listen to their recordings. They decide that they've become the best interpreters they can be, and that a recording wouldn't tell them anything useful, and that's their way of protecting themselves. And to be honest, I understand. It's really pretty awful to hear what you're doing wrong. And so in the journey of listening to what we do wrong, we also have to learn how to not allow that to wreck us. We have to be honest with ourselves about what we're doing wrong, but we have to still see what we're doing right, and we have to continuously give ourselves the credit that we will be able to correct whatever mistake we're hearing and make it better. So your journey as an interpreter is going to be, how can you be honest with yourself? How can you be critical of yourself without completely throwing everything into the toilet? And it's really challenging because the more that you listen to yourself, the better you get at listening for mistakes, the more mistakes you will hear. The truth is, you're never going to stop. I've been doing this for a decade and a half. I started with medical interpreting and then court interpreting and then conference interpreting, and I have never heard myself interpret and been like, ooh, that was perfect. Ever. Not ever. And none of us will, if we're being honest. If we're doing a good job listening to our interpretations, we will always hear room for improvement. But that's okay, though. And that's where we have to make peace with the mistakes. And what we can also make peace with, and I think that this is really important, is the idea of making mistakes at home. You can sit in your kitchen, you can sit in your office, you can be at your desk, and you can make mistake after mistake after mistake, and nobody will die from your misinterpretation. Nobody will go to jail because you didn't interpret properly. You're just practicing. And it's when you practice at home that you can take risks and you can try new things. You can test out an interpreting note-taking technique, for example, that you haven't had a chance to do yet. And you can make mistakes again and again until it's automatic and you make fewer mistakes. And so you can take what you do at home, make it automatic, and then it will start to show when you're at work and when you're on the job. The time to test new things is not on the job. The time to try out the new note-taking technique is not when you get to court on a Monday morning and you're interpreting for the first session of the day. That's not the time to try new things. The time to try new things is at home, where you're safe and nobody will be hurt if you interpret poorly. And that's where you can push your limits. And there will always be mistakes when you're pushing your limits. When I talk to people about improving note-taking, I always say it will go down before it goes up. You will make more mistakes because you're throwing yourself off balance. You have more things to juggle with in your brain. And so you're going to make more mistakes, and that's okay. You make an environment that is conducive to those mistakes, and you treat those mistakes as signs on your interpreting journey. They point you toward where you need to go. So it's really just this work of removing our egos from the situation, focusing on what we do well, and then noticing our mistakes, but noticing them like a detective would notice something. Not having it be like, oh my gosh, I screwed up, I'm a terrible person, I'm a bad interpreter, I shouldn't have this career. No, those are the shadow voices, and you tell them to take a hike. Instead, you notice your mistakes and you're proud of yourself because you are doing something that is brave and scary. And you keep careful track of those mistakes so that you can then go on to improve. But you're not going to improve unless you mess up first. So go make mistakes in a safe, controlled environment, be kind to yourself, and then learn from those mistakes and grow.